Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we have some spoilers for Campaign 3 of Critical Role. Realistically, we just have spoilers for Critical Role, and maybe even the thumbnail could be spoilerific. I don't know yet. Haven't picked what I'm going to make for the thumbnail, but spoilers. Last warning. So the spoiler warning out of the way, I can now get into the main video, which is a bunch of stuff. Over the last handful of episodes, we've been given a bunch of information about the upcoming events for Campaign 3. Mostly stuff from episode 109 and 110, and I just really want to talk about most of it because it's really fun and really cool for me, because it does feel like we're heading into some sort of Avengers Endgame type scenario where a bunch of things will be happening at once and a bunch of old characters are returning. So, and we've basically been confirmed there's going to be a Vox Machina one shot or maybe even 2 episodes dedicated to them, who knows. Same with the Mighty Nein, we've had been confirmed that a little while ago, but we've truly been given confirmation that stuff like that is 100% going to happen now. Beforehand it was maybe, now this is happening. This thing is truly happening because the Mighty Nein finally showed up in Campaign 3. However, there is a few other things I want to talk about beforehand, some information that sort of was drip fed to us as we went through episode 109 and 110, and I thought they would be fun to talk about before getting into the big one. So in episode 109, it was revealed that Liev Tell, shocker, the person who lives in Vasselheim, is in Vasselheim, and she is ready to go and on standby for whatever fight she's in, which means Liam, for the Vox Machina one-shot or two-shot, however many episodes it is likely going to be playing as Liev Tell. It makes sense, she's the only character of his left that was ever with Vox Machina, so truly it makes a lot of sense for him to be playing as Liev Tell. She even mentioned that she was, or that they all have a part to play in this, meaning she has a part to play in this, which means to me, she's going to be a part of the whole Vox Machina thing. So that's going to be Liam's character more than likely, because out of the 3 options that Liam has for Vox Machina-esque characters, Vax, who is currently a marble, Derrig, who is currently the motivation for Orm to keep going, or one of his motivations to keep going because he's dead, and Liev Tell, who is still around. The only thing that kind of bothers me a little bit about the whole Liev Tell thing is how they didn't mention Bertrand Bell. She should have mentioned Bertrand Bell, because they are lovers, kind of. They did have like a mild like thing at the end of the Search for Grog and Search for Bob one shots they did. So to me, it's a little odd that that wasn't mentioned at all. And I'm pretty sure he even said her name when he died. So it's kind of a shame she didn't mention anything like saying like thank you for honoring his memory or something like that. But it is what it is. That was a long time ago, and the crux of the entire name of this campaign. But it doesn't matter. I do think that it's really cool that he's going to be playing Liev Tell. I kind of figured he would play Liev Tell. It was his only option left. So it's kind of cool that she's been shown to us, which means that is likely going to be the case. He will be playing Liev Tell. The other bit of Vox Machina news that we have for Campaign 3 is that Scandin seems to be missing somewhere. And the reason we know this is because that Keela said that one of her allies is being difficult to locate at the moment, which is not great. We also know that it has to be Scandin because we've seen every other member of Vox Machina, with the exception of Terry. But I get the feeling Terry's not that hard to find with his whole Darrington Brigade. She's really just not looking for him. She's looking for Scandin before Terry. But there could be a couple of reasons, or this could be setting up a few things. First of all, he's not going to be playing as Scandin. It could be a setup that he's playing as Terry. Or he couldn't be playing Terry. He might be playing Kaylee, Scandin's daughter, which is something that a lot of people theorized back when FCG died initially, that he might play as Terry or Kaylee in this moment, or even Scandin making a return. And at one point, Sam even brought that up, that he thought about playing Scandin again, which would be rather interesting. Or the other 2 possibilities, one, or I guess 3, Vox Machina episodes, the one-shots that they'll be doing, will open with the party looking for Scandin before they go off. So they might do like a weird time skip thing, or a reverse time thing here, where the party is where like the Bells Hells and the other group are making their way up to Ruidus and moving toward Kavirus, and then we cut to Keyleth and the rest of Vox Machina spending time looking for Scandin. And that's like the first Vox Machina episode that we get, where they're looking for Scandin, and then they go and do the whole battle at the Malleus Key thing. Or Scandin will show up late and make a last minute save, which is very Scanlan-esque. So I do think all of these are possibilities. I would prefer him playing Scanlan, however, because if this is going to be like the last hurrah of Exandria or just Critical Role playing D&D in general, I would like them to play all of their characters again. Now, the logical question most people are asking is, why is Scanlan being difficult to locate? And, well, that's just realistically his character. He's done stuff like this throughout the entirety of us knowing him as a character, where he goes off and does things on his own, or where he wants to deal with his own problems, or where he feels that other people don't care about his problems, so he shouldn't care about theirs, and he goes off and does his own thing, right? This is a large portion of the Scanlan identity. One of the more positive versions of this, when he went off by himself, was the Scanbow incident, where he went off and destroyed an entire mansion by himself while they were dealing with the Briarwoods. So he did really good there, going off by himself and doing something. But then there was the whole Bard's Lament incident, where, the party brought him back to life, going against his wishes to involve his daughter, and then he sort of went on a massive, tangent about how none of them care about him. They've done a bunch of stuff for them, but they've never bothered to do anything for him, and he has his own problems that he's dealing with. They don't go out of their way to deal with him, only them. And then he left, which is very in Scanlan's character. So then, after that was all resolved and fixed, when he came back and apologized for leaving, and then they dealt with Vecna, he eventually gets married to Pike, and then they divorce. They've divorced somewhere in the time span between campaign 1 and campaign 2, actually, because it's written in the Teldora campaign guide, and it's within that 25 years. So in between those two campaigns, the two divorce. So it wouldn't surprise me if Scanlan is in another, one of his wells of depression, if he's off by himself doing nothing, or maybe he's doing meat man stuff with Kaylee and doesn't want to be found by the rest of the party because he's lost another important person in his life. They had kids together, right? Scanlan and Pike have kids together, of which never got mentioned during campaign 3 yet, which is odd to me, but they do have kids together. So the fact that he was in love with this person, they were married, and then things go poorly, kind of sucks. And for him, I can imagine him taking that very poorly, and then he leaves and goes off and hides from the rest of his friends. This might not be the reason he's making it hard for him to find, but it wouldn't surprise me if these things are all related to why he's being a pain in the ass to find. So, who knows? Eventually we will get these answers, I'm sure. If Sam decides not to play as Scanlan, these are obvious questions for the campaign wrap-up, right? Why didn't you play as Scanlan during the Vox Machina one-shots? And then he'd have to answer the question, and I'm very excited to see what he would say if he chose not to, because that would be interesting to hear. But I wouldn't be surprised if all the things that I mentioned were part of it, it's part of who he is, and then the whole Pike breakup thing, I could imagine that hitting him pretty hard. And finally, the biggest piece of news that have come out of all of this, Mighty Nein are finally in Campaign 3. Honestly, I'm so hyped for this. Anyway, Chetney was watching the lake as they were sort of preparing to go up to Ruidus for the final assault, and he saw a flash of orange. I wonder whose magical color that is. And he saw 7 figures standing next to the lake, which the number 7 is important to keep in mind. So obviously, from that point on, the Mighty Nein group met with the Bell's Hells group, which is really interesting for a couple of reasons. So first of all, Veth Bernardo is back, which is awesome, which means he won't be playing Luke, which I know a lot of people thought he might play Luke, but I always figured that this, a true world-ending event, the understanding is now there that this is the end of the world, they need to deal with it. I figured Veth would step back up, which to me is the difference between Scanlan and Veth, where Scanlan is off, not caring, he's looking up at the ley lines going, that's someone else's fucking problem now, whereas Veth goes, I have my own issues, but I need to help my friends, and I need to save the world. I think that is a very clear line between these two characters, and Sam characters are very similar, where they're all ready to leave at any moment's notice. So to have a character be oh, I need to step back up, very, very different for a Sam Riegel character. But anyway, it means he's not playing as Luke, which a lot of people thought he would be playing as Luke. Instead, he is going to be playing as Veth, which is awesome. To sort of combo with that, which is interesting, somebody else pointed out that Breas, his backstory involves both Jester and not Veth. So he's gonna recognize Jester likely. Like he's gonna likely be like, oh shit, Jester. But he's gonna look around and not see Not, which is interesting because Not is Veth. So that's kind of cool. I wonder how that whole thing is gonna, work together. Also, another interesting thing to point out about this is Veth is like desperately in love, or like she's very into Minotaurs. So this Minotaur who should hate her, she's attracted to, which I think is very funny and very interesting, and a super Sam thing to do. And more party lineup stuff for the Mighty Nein. We have Caduceus with the party and not Mollymauk. We knew this was going to happen already, but this was just confirmation. Like, we basically knew 100% that this was going to happen. That it was going to be Caduceus instead of Mollymauk. He mentioned this in the past. Talzin, that is. And there's also only 7 members of the Mighty Nein. There's no, Mollymauk's not there, Essex not there, which makes the whole group 9 people. So they don't have them there at all. There's only the 7 of them, the 7 core roster members, which means Robbie Damon's likely sitting out of the Mighty Nein one at the very least, which is, a little upsetting because a lot of people really like Robbie. So it kind of it's a little upsetting that he's not gonna be there because Talzin offered Mollymauk to him, which is how we knew that Caduceus was likely going to be the character that Talzin plays. When the idea first started floating around of the Mighty Nein and Vox Machina stuff happening, Robbie was offered both Terry, which I thought was very interesting, and he was offered Mollymauk. So it seems that he did not accept the Mollymauk one, which means to me he likely didn't accept the Terry one either. However, Robbie could still take part in the Vox Machina one-shot. There's still a bunch of characters that, NPC-wise are related to Vox Machina, or he can make a new character. The Vox Machina crew is in a much better position to meet new characters who could sort of aid them in the fight, and I think that's going to be the more likely outcome if Robbie's there. Also, Robbie could still very well be in the Mighty Nein one. Say Essex shows up at the beginning of the next episode, whether he has Mollymauk or he plays Essex alone or himself, who knows? Those are still options. He could still end up playing in the Mighty Nein one-shot. However, I'm going to say something that I think is going to upset a few people. And that is my firm belief on what Robbie should do for these one-shots is he should sit out. Because he's not a part of Campaign 1 or Campaign 2. Robbie is very much a part of Campaign 3. And I think it would be weird, not necessarily weird, but I don't think it would fit if he were to interject himself into Campaigns 1 and Campaign 2. It's not necessarily that I'm against the idea because I feel like most people would look at Robbie and be like, he's the 8th player now. He is the 8th player of Critical Role. If they're going to have 8 people sitting at the table, he's number 8, or he's technically number 9 because Matt's also at the table. But as far as players go, he's number 8. However, I feel like as far as, campaigns 1 and 2 go, he wasn't there at all. And I'd rather there be an open slot for the most memorable character who was a guest character in either campaign showing up. I would rather have characters like from the campaigns that they were in show up with their guests. I think that would be a lot more fun for us to see. Who could that be? I don't know. I mean, frankly, if I had to pick characters that would show up for like Vox Machina like guests, it would either be Archon or Sprig because they're both related to gods in a very heavy way. So for me, those 2 characters showing up would make a lot of sense, especially Sprig. I would love to just see Sprig come back because Sprig was awesome. But yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun for like the 8th seat to be left open because he didn't fill that seat back then. So now they can just have a potential guest. They don't even need a guest to show up, but to have the room for guests in Campaign 1 and Campaign 2 would be a lot of fun. And who should show up for the Campaign 2 guest? I don't know. For me, it's between 2 characters. It should be either Rini or Keg. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, Keg. No, Keg deserves redemption. God damn it. Keg deserves to have a chance to not kill a party member. But anyway, I just think that leaving that seat open makes more sense because Robbie wasn't there for it. So, especially for campaign 2. And I would rather Essek be left to Matt. When they animate campaign 2, there is one character I need Matt to voice more than anyone else, and that is Essek Thalis. They cannot pass off the reins to another DMPC like they did in campaign 1 or with The Legend of Vox Machina. I know it would have sounded super weird for Allura to have Matt's voice in the animated show, but god damn it, that is his DMPC. That is his DMPC to this day. She's one of the handful of characters who have shown up throughout the entirety of Critical Role's history. She has shown up in every single campaign, so it's really weird that he is not the voice, and he needs to be the voice. So no one else should really play Essek. As far as Robbie playing Molly Mock, that's fine as far as I'm concerned, because Molly Mock, Lucian, and Kingsley are 3 different characters, and realistically, when they go to do the animated series for campaign 3, they better have Molly Mock being Talzin, and then Lucian being Matt Mercer, and then after that, if Kingsley, when they do the Kingsley thing, whether it be Talzin or someone else doing it, that would be funny. Maybe if Robbie really does want to play Kingsley, then he can voice Kingsley when that happens. But who knows? I'm just throwing out ideas now at this point. But either way, I would rather leave the campaign 2 and campaign 1 8th seat open for guest characters from that campaign. So yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think that Sam is going to end up playing Scandin? I think he will, but I'm curious as to what reason he has to not being easy to find. I'm curious what you guys think about, Liam playing as Liev Tell. Obviously, it's like his only option realistically. He could play as some other character, which would be very fitting for him to be like, oh, every time there's a Vox Machina one shot, I get a new character, which would be kind of funny. And maybe it could even play into Robbie playing alongside of him, right? Like he plays like warrior twins or something like that. Who knows? Or realistically, we just don't see Robbie. And I'm curious what you guys think about that as well. The idea of Robbie not being in the campaign 1 or the campaign 2 8th player seat. I'm curious what you guys think about that. So yeah, I will see you guys on Thursday for the recap of episode 1011. I'm keeping that in because that's funny. 111. What am I smoking? Nothing. I don't smoke. But anyway, I'll see you guys then. Peace.